Hello, good morning. Hello, everyone. Good morning, Chelsea. How are you doing today?
I'm doing great. How are you?
I'm good, thank you. Great and good was already mixed, so very good. Apparently still a little bit tired, but it's okay. I'm excited that you're here today. Hallo zusammen, willkommen zu unserer heutigen Session, die Teil unseres June Specials ist, in dem wir verschiedene Menschen aus englischsprachigen Ländern interviewen. Wie manche von euch wissen, hatten wir schon letzte Woche einen kleinen Versuch, der leider schiefgegangen ist aufgrund der Technik. Aber die gute Nachricht ist, Stefan ist weiterhin verfügbar und wir suchen momentan nach einem Alternativtermin. Das heißt, ihr werdet trotzdem über sein Herkunftsland erfahren und es ist wirklich sehr spannend. Aber ja, bevor ich jetzt so viel über andere Sessions und andere Menschen spreche, wir haben heute Chelsea hier. Welcome to the session. It's her first Ask Me Anything session. And you can actually ask her anything because she has many interesting things to tell. And yeah, can you introduce yourself, Chelsea?
Yeah, so hi everybody. Good morning. Thanks for joining us early today. So yeah, my name is Chelsea. So I'm from Canada, obviously, but specifically I'm from Victoria, British Columbia, which is on the west coast of Canada and is actually on an island called Vancouver Island. But Vancouver is not on Vancouver Island. It's very confusing. I went to university in Vancouver, which is the third biggest city in Canada. And I moved to Berlin about 6 months ago. And I'm really excited to be here, tell you a little bit about Canada, and answer any questions that any of you have.
Thank you, Chelsea. Also, wie ihr mitbekommen habt jetzt, Chelsea spricht Canadian English. Das ist vielleicht neu für euch, weil ihr bisher eher Englisch aus den USA gehört habt oder aus Großbritannien. Und Chelsea wird mit uns Englisch sprechen in ganz normalem Tempo, so wie sie es sonst auch macht mit anderen englischsprachigen Menschen. Das ist vielleicht auch neu für euch und deswegen ist diese Session besonders, weil wenn ihr vielleicht nicht alles versteht, sie euch trotzdem dient, einfach mal die Sprache aufzunehmen, diesen neuen Akzent zu erspüren, vielleicht zu merken, was ist da anders, was ist da neu. Und deswegen ist es auch ganz normal, wenn ihr nicht alles versteht. Der Akzent ist übrigens auch neu für mich, deswegen muss ich mich auch dran gewöhnen. Und es kann sein, dass ich auch Fragen habe. Aber das Wichtige ist, dass ihr, sobald ihr Fragen habt, die einfach sofort in den Chat schreibt, damit wir für euch da sein können und Chelsea vielleicht wiederholen kann, wenn etwas nicht klar war oder egal, sei es jetzt Grammatik, Wörter oder einfach mal nochmal was langsamer sagen. Also macht bitte mit, damit wir auch wissen, was für euch wichtig ist. Okay, und ich habe noch eine wichtige Anmerkung. Wir haben ja jetzt in diesen Sessions verschiedene Menschen aus den englischsprachigen Ländern da. Ist aber wichtig zu sagen, dass wir trotzdem immer eine persönliche Meinung dabei haben. Das heißt, sogar wenn ihr jetzt von über Canada hört, dann kann es sein, dass andere Menschen dort anders leben. Und ja, Chelsea spricht jetzt für den Kulturkreis, in dem sie aufgewachsen ist, aber ihr wisst, man kann nicht immer alles verallgemeinern. Das ist auch nochmal wichtig dazu zu sagen. Gut, Chelsea, I think you prepared some quiz questions for us, and I'm very curious about them. So, do you want to start with the first one?
Yeah, so we do have a few questions to test some of your knowledge about Canada. So the first one, the word Canada comes from the word Kanata, which in the language of the St. Lawrence Iroquoians, which is an indigenous group in Canada, means A, canoe, B, canyon, or C, settlement.
Okay. Also, woher kommt überhaupt das Wort Kanada? Das ist ein Kanu, ein Canyon, Settlement Was glaubt ihr? Ihr könnt einfach den Buchstaben in die Kommentare schreiben.
This is a hard question too. So.
It can be a wild guess.
Mhm.
Ihr könnt einfach nur raten. Okay, wir haben schon B, C. Ach, noch eine Karina. Hallo Karina.
Yeah, the answer, oh, keep coming. Yeah, but the answer is C, settlement or village. Yeah, so lots of people got that right.
Okay. But also canyon. And I can imagine because people think about nature, I guess. So
Yeah,
they think about a canyon.
no, I don't think there are any canyons in Canada, unfortunately.
Okay. Hello, Karen. No problem that you're late. Okay, so you're right on time for the second question then.
Yeah, perfect.
Elsie, can you read it?
Yeah. So the second question is, what is Canada's national animal? So we have A, the beaver, B, a bear, or C, a moose.
Und eine kleine Übersetzungshilfe. Moose ist ein Elch. Beaver konntet ihr euch vielleicht denken. Es klingt auch wie Biber. Bear, okay, klingt auch wie im Deutschen, nur anders geschrieben. Daran seht ihr übrigens, dass Englisch und Deutsch eine gleiche Herkunft haben. Denn die Wörter ähneln sich teilweise. Die Rechtschreibung ist natürlich anders. Moose ist ganz anders, konnte man nicht erraten. Okay, was haben wir denn da? Some people said B, C, B, bear.
Yeah, well, the answer is actually A, the beaver. So yeah, the beaver is the national animal, and this is mostly because starting in the 1600s, colonizers came to Canada and set up a very big trading network by trading beaver furs. And so that was the first really big economic system in Canada at the time.
So you said trading network or trade, das ist der Handel. And they were selling beaver furs, also Pelze. Okay. And then we have one last question.
Yes, so the last question is Quebec, which is the French-speaking province in Canada, makes 77% of the world's what? A, maple syrup, B, donuts, or C, grape juice?
Any option would be very tasty.
Definitely.
Okay, wir haben ein paar A's.
Yeah, lots of A's.
Okay, lots of A's.
Maybe this question is a little bit too easy. But yes, the answer is A, maple syrup. However, Canada actually is the #1 donut consumer in the world.
Ah, okay.
Yeah, because we have a very popular fast food chain called Tim Hortons, which is named after a famous Canadian hockey player. And they sell a lot of donuts. It's kind of like the Canadian version of Starbucks, except they sell donuts.
Okay.
Yeah, but it's very good, and that's why we eat so many of them.
And do you eat donuts for breakfast, like in the United States, or is it more like?
No, actually, not really. It's more just like a dessert, or at lunch, maybe you have it with a sandwich. But no, that's a good point. We don't really eat it for breakfast.
Okay. And what kind of donuts do you eat? We spoke about it lately with some friends that here in Berlin, the donuts are always very fancy. And then our team members from the United States were like, we are missing these just simple donuts that don't have too many toppings. Is it also an important, passionate topic in Canada? How are the donuts?
I think we have so many different types. So like there are like the classic plain donuts, but then there's always like special donuts or with lots of toppings and chocolate or fruit and stuff on them. So I feel like you get a good mix, so everybody's happy.
Okay, now we spoke a lot about donuts. I've had breakfast already. I don't know why I got so stuck on these donuts. But I have one more tip for the audience. Ich habe noch einen Tipp für euch. Falls ihr noch andere Sprachen lernt, und zwar Französisch, haben wir auch einen Französisch-Podcast, French en route, der Englisch-Französisch ist. Das heißt, da könnt ihr sogar beide Sprachen üben. Oder dieses Jahr kommt der auch auf Deutsch raus, also Französisch en route. Und da gibt es eine Episode genau über Quebec und Maple Syrup, also Ahornsirup. Das heißt, da könnt ihr noch mehr darüber erfahren und eure Sprachkenntnisse in Englisch und Französisch verbessern. Hauptsächlich aber Französisch. Italienisch, ja. Please could you mark the correct answers? Yes. Okay. Erstmal gut, dass ihr Italienisch lernt. Dieser Podcast, den ich meinte, ist für Französisch hauptsächlich. Und the correct answer is here A, maple syrup. I'm sorry if I confused you by speaking so much about donuts. Vielleicht wart ihr verwirrt, weil ich dann so viel über Donuts gesprochen habe. Aber Ahornsirup A is the correct answer here. All right. And now I have a question to the audience, also an euch alle. Wenn ihr an Kanada denkt, so when you think about Canada, what is the first thing that comes to your mind? Woran denkt ihr, wenn ihr an Kanada denkt?
Wood, I like that one. Ice hockey, yeah. Yeah, definitely a lot of nature themed answers. Endless woods, cold, snow.
Yeah, lots of nature there in the answers. By the way, this is also what I would have said. Ah, we even have Celine Dion.
Yeah.
In person. I didn't know that.
Yeah, she's from Quebec.
Aha, okay. Wonderful landscape.
Yeah,
Maybe some of these people in the audience have already been to Canada.
maybe.
Or I think for those who haven't, we have this visual image in our minds of the mountains, the forest, the woods, also the cold. So, Chelsea, can you tell us if these images that we created in our heads are actually true?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, as y'all know, Canada is a very big country. So there's lots of different landscapes and temperatures and climates everywhere. For example, where I live on the West Coast, it doesn't snow very much. And the weather is actually pretty similar to Berlin weather, so pretty mild temperatures, not too hot, not too cold. But as you can imagine, there definitely are places in Canada where they get lots of snow and it gets very cold. So some facts about Canada. It is the second largest country by land mass.
Okay.
But it also has the world's... Sorry?
Sorry, I was just translating a bit. The second largest, also das zweitgrößte Land, wenn man die Landfläche sich anschaut. Sorry.
That's okay. And it also has the largest coastline in the world. And that's because up north, there are lots of tiny islands. And so if you add up all of those coastlines together, it's a lot of coastline.
Ah, okay. Okay, habt ihr das verstanden? The coast, also die Küste, Coastline, Küstenlinie, das ist die längste Küstenlinie in Kanada, aber es geht nicht nur um die Küste an den Außenseiten, wahrscheinlich habt ihr das große Land gerade vor Augen, sondern, as Chelsea said, in the north there are many islands, kleine Inseln, und da zählen natürlich die Küstenlinien dazu. Und so kommt es, dass es insgesamt die größte Küstenlinie ist. Yeah, that's a clever way of counting.
Yeah, so it's not just like one line. It's if you add up everything together.
Mhm.
But Canada also has the longest land border with the United States, as well. Even though Canada is a very big country by land mass, there aren't that many people. So there's about 35 million people in Canada. So it has the fourth lowest population density in the world. And actually, 90% of Canadians live within 160 kilometers of the US border. So most of Canada lives on a tiny little line at the bottom of the country.
Okay, so did you hear how many people live in Canada? Habt ihr es gehört? Also es sind 35 Million und das ist eigentlich weniger als die Hälfte der deutschen Bevölkerung, einfach um sich das mal vor Augen zu halten. Und diese Menschen leben hauptsächlich an der Grenze, the border, to the United States. Übrigens, an der border to the United States, there are also the Niagara Falls, also die Niagara-Fälle, die ihr auch benannt habt. Die sind ja auch genau an der Grenze. Right, Chelsea?
Yeah.
Sorry, I should have said in English. Now, okay, more English for Chelsea. And for you too, for everyone. All right. And okay, let's continue because I had some other questions for you, Chelsea. I would like to know more about the people in Canada, like you.
Yeah.
And of course, there are always stereotypes about people, but I would just like to hear your opinion. Do you think there are some special characteristics that make Canadian people special or different, or maybe not? What do you think?
Yeah, I think a little bit. I think we, in general, are very friendly, and we always, when we see other Canadians abroad in a different country, we always like flock together, and we're very happy to see each other because there aren't that many of us out there.
And you said flock. Sorry, what exactly is that?
Yeah, so I guess it's like a phrase, at least in Canadian English, you describe birds as flocking together, like when they're all flying together.
Okay.
So we use the same with people when you meet all together. Yeah.
Flock, I will write it in the comments because that's an interesting word. So you said it's like birds, also wie ein Vogelschwarm. Okay, you flock, so you can say it about people. Interesting. And you said you're quite friendly. What I know from movies, for example, in How I Met Your Mother or other movies, the Canadian characters always apologize a lot. Do you think this is true?
Yeah, I think it is a little bit true. Like, for example, if you accidentally, hit somebody in the grocery store or you I don't know, you need to get around somebody, we always say, sorry, like, can you let me pass? Or sorry, like, I accidentally nudged you on the street. I think it's something we do say a lot, but it's part of our kind of culture in a way where we don't notice it unless other people bring it up, but we also know that it's a stereotype.
Okay.
Yeah. And something that's really common in Canada too is saying thank you to the bus driver or the train driver after you get off the bus or the train. It's very common and it's considered polite to do that. Yeah.
That's really nice. You understand that? Habt ihr das mitbekommen? They say thank you to the bus driver. Also dem Busfahrer oder der Busfahrerin sagen sie am Ende Dankeschön, bevor sie aussteigen. Das finde ich sehr nett. Das ist gar nicht typisch bei uns. Also manche Leute machen das vielleicht, aber that reminds me rather of clapping on the plane when the pilot lands. And actually, this is kind of a stereotype about Germans, I think, because people were making fun of me. They're like, yeah, Germans clap when the plane lands. Also ist auf jeden Fall ein Klischee. Aber ich glaube, die Piloten haben das ja auch verdient, auch die Busfahrer, oder? Die bringen uns ja von A nach B und zwar sicher und wir können unsere Freunde, Familie besuchen. Also die haben auch alle einen Applaus verdient. Okay, very interesting. So, let's see. I looked up something I wanted to ask you. Okay, so I was back to the topic of food, Chelsea. I was, you see, I'm a little bit hungry, maybe still, looking up some facts about Canada, and then I found something, and it was called Beaver Tales, also Biberschwänze, and I was really shocked. So I just closed the page, and actually, I don't know what that is, but I thought maybe you can tell me what are beaver tails.
Yes, and don't be alarmed, it's not an actual beaver tail. So there's this kind of brand of pastry in Canada called a beaver tail. And it's flat and thin. It kind of looks like a pancake.
Okay.
And you put like maple syrup on it or like other sweet or savory toppings on it. And there's also lines in it that make it look like a beaver tail. So it's just like a fun treat that we have in Canada.
Okay, so I don't have to worry too much about the beaver tails. Also Biberschwänze in Kanada sind eigentlich eine Art Süßigkeit wie Pfannkuchen, like pancakes, you said, right?
Kind of, like fried dough.
Okay, frittiert. So don't worry when you see it on the menu. And your description makes me think of langosh. Do you know it?
No, I don't.
think it's Hungarian. It's also like fried dough. Maybe it's something similar.
Maybe, yeah.
Interesting. Okay, so language can sometimes be a little bit misleading. Manchmal führt uns Sprache auf die falsche Fährte. Und ja, dadurch, dass wir vielleicht noch nicht so viel Kontakt mit dem kanadischen Englisch hatten, würde mich interessieren, was auch die englische Sprache dort speziell macht. Vielleicht hört ihr schon Chelseas Akzent, aber ja, Chelsea, maybe you can tell us something about the English in Canada.
Yeah, so the English in Canada is kind of a mix between British English and US American English. For example, when we write, a lot of our spelling is British English. So we have U's in words like color, or we use the word, the letter S in words like practice or analyze. But most of our vocabulary and our slang and stuff like that comes from the United States. So we don't use a lot of like British words like lift and things like that. We usually use words from the United States.
And can you please repeat the examples you just said? So you said like the word analyze, for example, you would write it with an S, right?
Yeah, instead of like a Z. Oh, another thing is that for the last letter of the alphabet, Canadians call it Z, but people from the United States call it Z.
Okay, also es geht um den Buchstaben Z, der auch einfach unterschiedlich benannt wird in Z in Kanada oder Z in den USA. Das Gute für euch, egal wie ihr es sagt, es wird richtig sein. Wenn sich jemand beschwert, sagt ihr einfach, in einem anderen englischsprachigen Land ist es aber richtig und schon passt es. Also bei Wörtern mit Eis am Ende wird das S benutzt bei der Rechtschreibung. Und der andere große Unterschied war OU oder U, color oder O. You gave the example of color, right, Chelsea?
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
so how would you spell color?
Yeah, so COLOUR.
Okay.
Yeah.
Mhm.
I can see that Karen asked, do we use trousers or pants? And we use the word pants.
Okay.
Yeah.
Also good to know. But would you understand the word trousers?
Yeah, we would understand it because we know like people from the UK tend to say trousers. We would understand, but I think the majority of Canadians would use pants.
Mhm. Okay. Also, wenn ihr Wörter seht, die auch unterschiedlich geschrieben werden, zum Beispiel Color, dann werdet ihr bei den kanadischen Wörtern eher sehen, dass die O-U-R als Rechtschreibung haben. Aber wenn ihr mal Color ohne dem U seht, dann ist es auch richtig. Nur halt in den USA. Okay, and so now we spoke a little bit about spelling. I have one more question about the general situation.
Mhm.
And actually, before you tell us, Chelsea, I would like to know from the audience, wisst ihr eigentlich, wie viele offizielle Sprachen Kanada hat? So how many official languages are there in Canada?
$50, that's a lot.
But you know, it sounds funny first, the number 50, but actually, we will come to it later. Actually, there might be some truth to it.
Yeah, very true. Yeah, so a lot of people are also saying 2 official languages, and that would be correct. So officially, Canada has 2 official languages, English and French.
Mhm.
It's very interesting, though. There is a bit of separation geographically in terms of language use. For example, Quebec is a French-speaking province in Canada, and each province actually has their own official languages. And Quebec is the only province with French as the first official language, but there's another province called New Brunswick that has English and French.
What is it called?
New Brunswick. On the east coast of Canada, they have both English and French as their official languages. But apart from that, English and French speakers tend to live in different places in the country. I, for example, don't really speak any French.
Okay.
But
so you can also listen to the podcast about
Dialect. I can also learn some French by listening to the podcast. Yeah. But yeah, I live in the English-speaking part of Canada.
And do you learn French in school?
We do learn French in school, but maybe not very well because I can't speak it.
Okay. All right. And we had another answer that said 50 official languages. That's not quite true, but the number 50 and languages can have some meaning to it. Chelsea, can you tell us more?
Yeah. So there are many different Indigenous groups in Canada, many with their own languages and dialects as well. So if you count, there are actually 11 different Indigenous language groups within Canada, which can be broken down into 65 individual languages. So I guess if you add up all of that together, it is more than 50 languages.
And that's crazy. It's more than 60 even for only 35 million people who live there. Es gibt noch so viele indigene Sprachen, über 60, die gesprochen werden in bestimmten Bevölkerungsgruppen. Das ist super interessant. And I hope there are initiatives to keep them alive. It would be so interesting actually to learn more about these languages. I know not today because we focus on English, but yeah, I'm very curious about it. Good. And what else is interesting is what words you use that we might not know. And Chelsea, maybe you can just give us some words and we guess what they mean.
Sure. Yeah, so there are some words that are only used in Canada. For example, the word loony, which I think will be put into the chat, as well as toonie.
All right. I will start with loony and show it to you. So, was glaubt ihr, was dieses Wort heißt? Falls ihr es noch nie gehört habt, dann ratet einfach mal und ich mache mit. Aber erstmal schreibt ihr eure Antworten, sonst lasst ihr euch zu sehr von mir beeinflussen. Beauty. Oh, that's nice. Hi, Louis. Singles. If it's about music. Ah, another singles one.
Very interesting.
So, I thought it has to do with bathrooms, honestly. Like toilets, like going to the loo. I remember somebody saying this in the office. So, actually something very different than...
No, I think in the UK they say the loo as the bathroom, but that's not how we use this word.
It's not how you use it. Okay, so I'm off.
Actually, Bastel, I think is how you pronounce it, got it correct. So it's the $1 Canadian coin. It's called a loonie because there is a loon on it, which is like a goose, like a Canadian goose.
Okay, eine Art Gans.
Yeah, and then the $2 coins are called toonies because they're $2.
Okay, like very creative.
Yes.
Okay, also mein Versuch mit den Toiletten war falsch. Nicht merken bitte. Es war wegen going to the loo im britischen Englisch. Aber wie ihr jetzt gehört habt, Loonies sind die $1 Coin, also Münze, und Toonies, also die 2, ist die $2 Münze. Okay, very interesting. Do you have any other words, Chelsea?
Yeah, actually, speaking of bathrooms, Canada does have a unique word to describe the bathroom. So we usually say washroom. We usually think the word toilet is a bit too impolite. But then bathroom and bathroom is also a little bit impolite, but it's used. Restroom is too formal. So we usually say washroom. Yeah.
Gut. Also es ist vielleicht etwas komisch für euch, über Toiletten zu sprechen, aber es ist sehr wichtig, denn wenn ihr vielleicht mal in Kanada seid, ist es eine der ersten Fragen, die ihr stellen müsst. Und deswegen ist das auch Thema bei uns. Also es gibt verschiedene Wörter und Washroom ist das höflichste. Nicht zu übertrieben wie Restroom, you said, was too...
It's a bit formal.
Sehr formell, okay. Yeah. Okay, so this is the word you need to use. Good, washroom. And I heard another word that is like toque. Toque. Okay, what is that?
Yeah, so a toque, it's like a wool hat that you wear when it's cold. Americans or people from the United States generally call it a beanie.
Okay.
It's kind of the same thing, but we call it a toque. Just like a knit hat close to your head that you wear when it's cold.
Okay, for the cold. Hey, and speaking of the cold, actually I have a question.
Sure.
So, when I was doing my year abroad in the United States, I met some people who did their year abroad in Canada, and they told me they were always going to school with a snowmobile. Do you call it like this? Schneemobil? What do you call it? Like
actually, there is a word for it, but now I'm forgetting what it is. But I know what you mean, snowmobile. Yeah.
Snowmobile, okay. But if you forget the word, maybe it means that not everybody in Canada would use the toque.
No.
What did you say, toque?
Toque, yeah.
Toque and the snowmobile to go to school.
I mean, I think everybody in Canada owns a toque because it does get cold.
Okay.
But no, unless you live really high up north, you would not use a snowmobile to get to school. But maybe that does exist somewhere in Canada, but not for most people.
Okay, also fast alle Leute besitzen wahrscheinlich so eine Wollmütze, weil es wirklich kalt wird, aber es ist ein Gerücht, dass alle mit dem Schneemobil zur Schule fahren. Gut zu wissen. And are there any other words you want to share with us, Chelsea?
Yeah, so maybe some people have heard of it before. It's a bit of a Canadian stereotype to say the word a, which is just EH. It's a very Canadian stereotype. I personally don't think I use it very often, but it's definitely used, I think, more in Eastern Canada. It's kind of like a way of saying yeah at the end of sentences or right. So for example,
Yeah,
you can say, it's a nice day, eh? But it means the same as like, it's a nice day, isn't it? Or it's a nice day, right?
Huh?
So it's kind
Also
of like,
Bestätigung, so to get a confirmation.
yeah. So just something you put at the end of the sentence to like with your friends. So yeah.
Do you have any more examples for that?
Yeah, you could say a very it's like a Canadian stereotype to like beer as well. So it could be like,
Okay.
pass me a beer, eh? Or something like that. Just
Aha.
yeah.
Okay, das heißt, das werdet ihr vielleicht in manchen Regionen öfter hören, dieses A. Am I pronouncing it right? I'm not
Yeah.
sure. Ja? Okay. Das ist ein Füllwort, das haben wir auch im Deutschen, ganz viele Wörter, die vielleicht nicht direkt übersetzt werden können. Und wir benutzen dann andere Wörter, zum Beispiel Modalpartikel heißt das, falls ihr euch mehr darüber informieren möchtet, aber zum Beispiel sowas wie doch, das ist doch ein schöner Tag oder ein Oder am Ende. Ist ein schöner Tag, oder? Oder vielleicht auch ein Ja oder mal. Kannst du mir mal das Bier reichen, wie das Beispiel jetzt von Chelsea? Okay, also wenn ihr das oft hört, achtet mal drauf, das ist auch typisch in manchen Regionen Kanadas. Cool. Thank you, Chelsea. Super interesting information you've shared with us so far. And actually, I would like to give some time to the audience to ask their questions. Jetzt habt ihr einige Minuten Zeit, um eure Fragen zu stellen. Ich habe ja schon viele gestellt, aber vielleicht gibt es etwas, was euch besonders interessiert. Stellt die Fragen gerne in den Kommentaren, auch gerne auf Englisch. Und Chelsea ist jetzt hier für euch da, um diese Fragen zu beantworten. Weil in der Schweiz würde man oder sagen. Ja, würden wir Deutschland auch teilweise machen. Ja. Let's just wait a couple of minutes, Chelsea.
Sure.
Somebody just arrived later. Aber trotzdem, wenn du Fragen hast, kannst du sie gerne in den Chat schreiben. Auch wenn du später dazu gekommen bist. Okay, I see 2 questions. Is like the English word right?
Yeah, it's used in a similar way to say like right at the end of the sentence or oder in German. So it's kind of used in a similar way. How long is the winter in Canada? I think that just totally depends on where you are. I live in like the warmest part of Canada, which isn't that warm, but warmest. Yeah, it's a few months that we don't get a lot of snow. We do mostly just get rain. So I guess it also depends what you count as winter. But on the east coast of Canada, it is a lot colder and they get a lot more snow, so the winters do last a lot longer. So it's very depends on where you are in Canada. It's a big country.
Okay. And another question is, What kind of hobbies have the most Canadians, or what kind of hobbies do most Canadians have?
That's a good question. I think hiking is a really big thing to do in Canada. There's lots of mountains, especially around Vancouver on the West Coast. So hiking is a very big outdoor hobby. Same with
Also Wandern?
skiing.
Oh, skiing, nice.
It's very popular in terms of like outdoorsy sports.
And Canadians also invented the sport, right?
Oh, yes, they did. So basketball is actually from Canada, which is something you might not think of when you think of Canada, is basketball.
Okay, Basketball wurde in Kanada erfunden. And climbing, is it also a typical sport?
I've actually noticed that it's more popular here in Germany or in Berlin than it is in Canada. I think to some extent there's some climbing, but I think maybe only the really super outdoorsy people, but most people go hiking and skiing and stuff like that. Yeah.
Okay, I see another question. I don't know if you can, or if you have an opinion on that. What do the Canadian people think about the Canadian Oil Sands Trust?
I actually don't know what that trust is, so I can't really speak on that, unfortunately.
Okay, so yeah, not all Canadians are involved in this topic. Let's say it like this. Yeah, it's true. Okay. What else? Do you have more questions?
Me?
No, actually, the audience. But if you have questions, that's also okay. Wir sagen vielleicht noch mal eine Minute. Wenn in den nächsten Minuten noch Fragen kommen, dann kannst du sie beantworten, Chelsea. Ansonsten, glaube ich, hast du schon sehr viele Informationen heute gegeben. What about Mode?
Oh, like fashion?
What about fashion?
I don't think Canadians have a very distinct fashion. I think it's probably similar to the United States. Maybe we dress a little bit warmer.
Okay.
Wear sweaters longer, or like thick leggings, or tights or something. But I don't think we have a very distinct fashion.
Very distinct, also sehr anders oder unterschiedlich, dass es irgendwie anders raussticht. And I see one more question. Let's see, it's the last one and it's very interesting. Do you speak a dialect? So within the Canadian English, are you speaking a dialect?
I guess to some extent, like Western Canada has a bit of a different dialect than people from Eastern Canada. So people compare like the Western Canadian accent to like Western United States accent as well. So like people from California and stuff like that. So I guess I do have a bit of a dialect.
Okay, you see, there are many dialects in the English-speaking world. Also Accents, erstmal die Länder an sich, aber dann noch die Dialekte. Deswegen, wenn ihr gerade was nicht verstanden habt oder weniger als sonst, ist das vollkommen normal. Und ich glaube, es ist auch ganz schön, einfach mal zu sehen, wie viele Variationen es eigentlich gibt. And okay, I said last question, but let's end this session with the favorite topic that we started with food, and then it's going to be really the last question. What's your favorite, but let's say Canadian food, okay?
Yeah, actually, that's a great question because one of my favorite foods is a pretty Canadian food.
Ah, perfect.
It's macaroni and cheese. However, there's a specific brand that Canadians like a lot, and it's called Kraft Dinner. So that's one of my favorite foods. I honestly miss it. I tried to buy like a version of it here, but it just wasn't the same. So a specific, mac and cheese is very popular in Canada.
Great. Thank you so much. I think now we spoke so much about food that people will just go directly to lunch after the session. But I hope you also learned many other things about the culture and the language in Canada. Thank you so much, Chelsea. It was super interesting. And for the audience, thank you for participating. Danke fürs Mitmachen. Nächste Woche sehen wir uns wieder und wir haben noch mal eine Person aus einem englischsprachigen Land, was ich nicht verraten möchte. Es wird auf jeden Fall sehr spannend und ich freue mich darauf, euch alle wiederzusehen und eure Fragen zu hören. Also dann, habt noch einen schönen Tag, have a great day. You too, Chelsea, have a beautiful day and see you next week.
Thanks so much, everybody.
Bye.